It's Corso and Catone. Brought to you by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel, Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here smiling. I don't know what the hell you're smiling about. There's nothing to smile about.
It's because it's, hey, what are you going to do? It's a nice day. I like it.
Joe is with us in the booth. You're watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you podcast. And, of course, 790 The Score in Rhode Island. You can catch us there, too. Mark, we got a good one. Well, we always have a good one, but we have an irritating one today. Let's just say that.
Yeah, we do have an irritating one today.
Yeah, weekly rewind. We're going to unpack Super Bowl 58. And are the Chiefs the new Pats? We're going to talk about that also. And, of course, Catone's comments. Don't want to miss that. Stick around. And B's and C's. We're going to talk a little Bruins and Celtics. And, of course, the Pats Nation. Hey, we're going to break down wide receivers today, free agent wide receivers. So stick around for that. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Well, Chris, when we get into the recap of the Super Bowl, Chris, it's should be duly noted that you actually were in town and actually got to watch the game with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The neighbors called in noise complaints throughout the night. Even the neighbor he pushed down in the snow. Speaking of snow, we'll speak about the snow in a little while. I mean, I had to go there and get caught in a foot of snow and shoveling, and my God, so happy to be home. So, gentlemen, let's go. Let's talk about Super Bowl 58. We're going to do it in a weekly rewind. Joe, right now. Going back through the week. About a weekly rewind. So 25-22, the Chiefs prevail and win and beat the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 58 to win back-to-back Super Bowls, the first time that's been done since 03 and 04. And
who was it in 03 and 04 that did that, Chris?
The best team that ever, the best dynasty ever. Still.
Okay. All right.
Patriots. We'll talk about that too.
Yep.
But so, I want to break down, this game. Go through it. And then I also want to talk about, on the other half of this, Mahomes, Brady, Chiefs versus Pats.
Yep.
But before we do that, okay, the one thing that probably the more important thing to most of the people in the country was this halftime show. Mark. Okay. And Joe, I want your input on this because, you're in the entertainment industry and, and all that. I don't know. What'd you guys think of that? Because I thought it sucked.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
I don't know. Listen, I think that might be a little too harsh to use that language. A little too harsh to use that language. Okay, listen. My issue, and maybe it's because I'm getting old. I don't know, Chris.
You are old. You're not getting old.
All right, I'm old. But considering I'm old, you think some of the people he brought out, I didn't even know who they were. I'm texting my kids who are in college. I'm like, who are these people? Right?
I know. I was with you.
I mean, I knew Usher, but some of these other people, I didn't know who they were. I knew Alicia Keys, but the other guys that came out, that I don't know who they were. And
was that the girl in the red outfit?
Yeah, that was the girl in the red outfit.
I like the outfit.
Yeah, of course you did. But listen, I had trouble hearing some of what he was singing. Joe, I don't know if it was just maybe the feed Chris and I were getting from my house, but I had a little trouble hearing the lyrics to what he was singing.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's because he's got that little tiny microphone shoved in half. It wasn't even in front of his mouth either.
Okay, so that was the problem. Okay,
side a little bit,
and stuff.
And then as he's done jumping around singing, the thing's moving, Joe, too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, terrible.
So it was bad. That was bad.
Because you
couldn't hear it.
I haven't seen a good halftime show. I don't even know when the last time I saw a good halftime show.
Prince was awesome.
Well, Prince was fantastic.
So was Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson was great. And I'm going to tell you something, Chris. I actually liked Rihanna last year.
Yeah.
I did. I liked Rihanna. And I liked it the year
Katy
in
Perry was
LA.
good.
I liked in LA when they had Snoop Dogg and Ice
that was
Cube
great.
and all those guys come out, right? Wasn't
Katy
that great?
Perry was really good too. That
She
time
was
she
good.
came out on the Lion and all that stuff.
She was good. And I'm going to tell you who else was good, Chris.
Hmm.
You want to talk about dynasties? Way back when they had U2. Our first
Yeah, that
Super
was
Bowl,
great.
right?
Yeah, they had the list of all the 9/11, the people like,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
that was cool. That was cool.
moving. That was moving. This
That
one
was a
sucked.
good
I
one.
mean, this one, this
Okay.
didn't move the needle for me. This didn't do anything. It was. You're right. Mark and I couldn't hear. Maybe it's just because it's us, but you couldn't hear what he was saying. I'm like, what, Mark? What the hell? We look like two guys sitting in the nursing home. I'm like, what is he saying right now? I'm looking at him. I'm like, what
but then you called your wife, and she's like, "No, it's great. What's great?"
Well, my sister was all, she's an usher. See, if you're, she's about 35, so she was like what, 16 or so,
That's
when
the
he was
age
big,
bracket.
and
Yeah.
that was the thing. So I don't know. I thought it was loud. Then you know what the problem was? They were too close to him. So you got all that other nonsense going on behind. He's dancing, moving around, the showgirls, this, that, the other thing, but they didn't pan out so you could see the whole thing.
Yeah. That's
Joe. You know what the real problem was? He was looking for Tony Bennett to come out or Frank Sinatra. That's what he was looking for. Wayne Newton. That's who he was looking for.
Now, if Wayne Newton came out, like that's someone who knows how to create a show. It's a thing. It's like, I mean, the spectacularism of all the dancers and all that stuff. It's like, all right, it's huge. It's monumental moment.
They couldn't get him. They couldn't get Wayne Newton out of the showgirls' dressing room in enough time to get out there onto the field. Yeah, but and then the roller skates happened. I said, Mark, are they on roller skates right now? What are they, roller skating around?
They were roller skating. They rollerblading, whatever it was. Rollerblading, roller skates.
No, they were skates.
They were roller skates. They were roller skates.
The girls
you were sitting right next to me. What's the matter with you?
No, I think the terminology of what they're called now has changed, T-Rex.
No, because during that you were stuffing pizza down your face. That's why you missed the damn roller skating going on.
I don't even mind that part. I'm like, oh, okay, this looks like a liability, but I'm like, if he can skate, he can skate. That's cool. He can do that. But
I just couldn't. He's very talented, Usher. I just couldn't hear a word he was saying.
Talking about me, he goes from pizza to spinach pies from Caserta. Then I look and he's drawing out hot tamales and stuffing them down his throat.
Oh yeah.
Well, you bought all that crap. I mean, I felt it rude to not eat it.
And then he washed it down, Joe, with a Bloody Mary.
There you go.
There you go, Joe.
That was like in the fourth quarter when I had to. I was like, that was it. I got give me something because I can't take what I'm watching over here.
No Canadian miss for that guy.
No Canadian miss for him.
No Canadian miss. So that's that was a halftime show. And again, then the game kept going and it got unbearable. So Mark, let's talk about this. Okay. Okay. So why? And we're going to get to the Chiefs, the new Pats. We're going to stick around because we're going to get to that. But why did Kansas City win this game? What happened there?
Two things, Chris. First, Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, wet himself again on a big stage. Okay. So I'm sick of all these people saying, they would have beaten anybody else in the Super Bowl but Kansas City. It wasn't Shanahan's fault. He ran up against Mahomes, and they just kept singing Mahomes' praises about, Mahomes is the new Brady, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe he is the new Brady. I'll give him that. But the fact of the matter is, Shanahan wet himself just like he did in 2018, just like he did in the other Super Bowl. This is 3 times he's been to the big game. Once as an OC, twice as a head coach, and all 3 times he's drooled all over himself and threw up all over himself. Yeah, he's blown leads. Can't handle a big stage. Can't handle it. In Kansas City, Chris, I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, Mahomes drives twice at the end of once at end of regulation, brings him down in overtime. I get it. He's clutch. He's clutch. I get it. He's got that clutch gene just like Brady. I get that. But they won the game, Chris, because of the defense And I'll say this, because we made fun of him last week. Steve Spagnuolo dialed up pressure at the right time. The defense, Chris, won that game for them. I don't care what they say about Mahomes. If Kansas City's defense didn't keep him in that game early, that game could have been 27-0 at the half.
See, when I'm looking at that game, you and I were watching the same game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because before I anoint Kansas City defense and give them all this credit, and they were good. I'm not, they were good. But I can't in one breath down Shanahan and then in the next breath give it to the Chiefs. So, like, to me, yeah, Mahomes was Mahomes. And you and I said it. I mean, we picked San Fran on the show, but what did we say before the game? And I said it to you on Saturday, Joe, when I was with you. This guy is good. They're going to find a way to win. Kansas City, they're the Patriots in the sense of they just find a way. They find a way to win. And I told you before the game, if this thing is close at the end, Mahomes will go win it.
So, Chris, let's talk then, before we get into the Chiefs defense, what you thought of them. Let's get into Shanahan. We both think Shanahan kind of wet himself. So let's talk about the offense.
Well, look,
what did we see on offense from San Fran, and what should they have done differently?
No, I see the turnovers, and I get the turnovers. I mean, that first drive, they're driving, and then they turn the ball over, in scoring position, and then they give up the ball with Kansas City in scoring position. So that killed them. But both teams had 2 turnovers. So McCaffrey rushes 22 times for 80 yards, 3.6 a carry. Now, when that game began in the pretty much first quarter, I think, they couldn't stop Kansas City couldn't stop the running game. They couldn't do it. And I didn't see them do anything that loaded the box, that brought extra guys to the line of scrimmage. That zone blocking was working with the fullback, and then they would get McCaffrey to the edge at times, okay? And it was open. It was there. And then all of a sudden it stopped. I mean, there's no way that Purdy should throw the ball 38 times in this game. No way. They were winning. They were winning for most of this game. How are you not shortening the game, running the ball more? They should have rushed. They rushed for 110 yards. They should have rushed for 200 yards in this game. Okay? And McCaffrey should have scored 2 touchdowns at least. And they would have blown this team out of the water. They had every opportunity. They had every opportunity at the beginning of this game, in the first half of this game, to blow a lead, to take a lead against this team that Kansas City would not have been able to overcome. And they didn't do it because they went away from the things they do best. And all of a sudden, Purdy's now sitting back there throwing the ball, Mark. And I don't understand why that's happening, especially against pressure.
So, Chris, when they get the turnover, the interception on Mahomes, what do? They run the ball. They throw the ball 3 times in a row. Then they get the ball back. They throw it 3 times in a row again. And in between some of that, they had penalties, holding penalties, whatever, that even pushed them back further. But the point was, you're running the ball. You're throwing the ball 3 times. Throw it 3 times. And I think the following possession, he didn't say, it was like 9 plays in a row, Chris. He threw the ball.
Yeah, I don't understand. And I don't want to hear anybody tell me, well, the Chiefs were doing things that invited that. No, I didn't see it. I mean, I didn't see that. I didn't see the Chiefs doing much different. Spagnuolo had a game plan and he executed it and he did it. That was it. And I'm not taking anything away from the Chiefs. Hey, they kept that score close. But if you really break it down and you really look inside of what happened, Shanahan wet himself as a play caller in this game. Whereas Andy Reid.
Oh, Andy Reid took him to school. Andy Reid took him to school. Slapped him around, took him to school.
And I disagree with this pisses me off about Shanahan. They fired the defensive coordinator for was it Willis? They fired the defensive coordinator for San Francisco this week. Yep. And he was a scapegoat. And I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with that.
I thought San Fran's defense played well, Chris, considering the first half
right.
Of that game.
I mean, look, what was the halftime score? 10-6?
10-3.
10-3. So 10-3. They allowed 3 points and a half. Kelsey had 1 reception.
And I would argue, Chris, if Greenlaw don't get hurt and blow his Achilles just running onto the field, Travis Kelce was a non-factor, and he would have continued to be a non-factor if Greenlaw stayed in the game. Because as you brought up, Chris, during the game, you said, "Look at this Greenlaw, Mark. The whole middle of the field is shut down.
Shut down.
Shut down, and it would have continued to be shut down." So listen, if he don't get hurt, Kelce ain't catching jack in that game.
I don't think they win this game. I don't think they win
this
game.
Probably
I mean it. I put that much on this play. Look, I haven't been quiet about this all year long, talking about the the San Fran linebackers and what it takes to shut down the middle of the field. And look, they did. The middle of the field was shut down, which allowed pressure to get to Mahomes. Mahomes had pressure on him. Constant pressure in that first half. And it's because of those two linebackers, because I told you, it's not like Baltimore. Those guys, Kansas City wasn't used to linebackers that can play in space like those two, like Warner and Greenlaw. And Chris, when Greenlaw went out, the middle of the field opened up.
And Chris, in the second half, the guy that replaced Greenlaw at 48 was chasing Kelce the entire time. That's who was behind him, getting beat every time, was 48. I forget his name, but that's the guy who replaced Greenlaw.
Right. And if you want to say, well, Andy Reid took the DC to school in the second half because of that issue, and the defensive coordinator couldn't adjust to it, fine. Okay. All right. Yeah, you want to say that? That's fine. But, yeah, I don't see – which is why when you say you give it all to Mahomes and all that, look, I thought Stanford's defense played well. They gave it up at the end. I understand. But Andy Reid was the guy, man. That I still want to see Mahomes without him, because that touchdown to win the game, that's all Andy Reid. I mean, you and I could have thrown that ball. That guy was wide open, Hardman.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm going to tell you something, Chris. So even clock management for San Francisco, okay? So at the end of the first quarter, Kansas City ends up kicking the field goal to make it 10-3, okay? Yeah. But on that drive, Chris, they got a first. They got a first down. Or they didn't get a first down and they let the clock run. They didn't use a timeout. Like they were playing to take one shot and kick a field goal. But Shanahan had 3 timeouts left, Chris. If he called timeouts, he probably could have gotten the ball back with about a minute, 10 seconds left in that second quarter. At the end of the quarter, maybe you get the ball back, Chris, get a little bit of a return, and maybe you got a shot to go kick a field goal to make it 13-3 and make it a 2-score game. Shanahan just sat there and let Kansas City dictate the clock and run it down. And he was just sitting there. What were you doing?
Yeah, well, I want
timeouts, waste 1 or 2.
I want to go to break, and I want you to bring that up again, because there were some other things that Shanahan did to wet himself in game management, game situations in this game. And that made a big difference. And we're also going to talk about other Chiefs, the new Pats, and is Mahomes, Brady, all that and more on the other side. No flipping.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
it.
What is wrong?
Get him on this damn show.
You lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England feel. It's going to be real.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, Saturdays, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern. Sponsorships available. Give us a call. Email us, corso.catone@gmail.com. Mark, we talked about the game management for Shanahan and how we feel like he wet himself a bit. Yeah. So you talk about that before the half. What about overtime? I mean, we talked about the play calling. We talked about the fact
Chris, listen, you and I didn't have a problem, and I know he got lambasted this week, but you and I didn't have a problem with him taking the ball, because we felt, you and I both felt watching the game, San Fran's defense got a little gassed at the end of that regulation, and we both said, get them off the field. I understand you had to give Mahomes the ball knowing what he needed to do to win the game. I get that. Yes, I get it. But Chris, their defense was gassed. If you would have deferred, Kansas City was going to go right down the field and score a touchdown anyways. Then I guess at least you would have had a chance to match them. You would have known what you had to do. But I think in his mind, I got to get my defense off the field for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I don't know if I agree with. I think you and I had it right in our reasoning. I don't know if he was thinking that way.
No, maybe he wasn't.
Maybe he wasn't. That's the reason why.
Maybe the analytic guys told him take the ball.
it came out this week that the players didn't know the overtime rules,
Yeah,
the new overtime rules.
That's a problem.
And, you know, and for players to come out, you never hear that come out in New England.
No.
And
listen, don't get me wrong. I know Mahomes said that Reed went through over and over.
Situation,
if it goes
situation.
to overtime, scenario,
Right.
situation,
This is what we're
scenario,
gonna do.
situation. But the receiver who caught the winning touchdown, Chris, didn't even know the game was over. Mahomes had to go tell him we won the Super Bowl. Like
Right.
he didn't even, Hardman didn't even know. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
I
But
don't know.
anyway,
I mean, look, you know, like I
but
said,
you're right,
I mean,
Chris.
those kinds of decisions throughout a game like this, and again, I don't want to take anything away from Kansas City. I mean, they're, you know, back to back. You can't deny what they've done. You know,
Chris,
you can't
listen.
deny what Mahomes did. But I think that San Fran lost this game. I do. I really think they lost this game. They had a chance, Mark, to take a big lead, and they didn't do it.
On the overtime drive, okay, when they kicked the field goal, San Fran. So it's second down, not the 3rd and 4, the second down call, okay? Earlier in the drive and throughout the game, and he only did it 4 or 5 times, Chris, where you bring motion to the opposite side of the line and maybe run a couple of guys in motion, but you run motion to the opposite side. And then with your fullback, it's get them going in the opposite direction on defense to flow the defense, Chris. His father's old Terrell Davis pitch.
Yeah, he did it once.
On second down, Chris, that's what he should have ran. Instead, he runs a traditional play to the right side, and McCaffrey gets stopped in his tracks. Instead of running motion in the Terrell Davis pitch or counter. So Shanahan, Chris, he went away from what he did all year long with McCaffrey.
Mark, the counter was there. I mean, they ran that jet sweep in the first half with Deebo Samuel, okay? And I don't think they got him the ball enough either. But they ran that jet sweep for Samuel as a setup. We said, okay, something's coming from this. And I told you, I said, you can run a nice counter off this. They ran the split backfield. That's their formation, the 2 running backs in the backfield. You can run counter to that. You can run heavy. You can be heavy with the offensive line on one side, motion and counter back. And that was open because of the pressure they were trying to bring. Yeah, I give it to the Chiefs, but I also believe that San Fran lost this game. So, Mark, talking about, is Kansas City the new Pats? Are they the new Pats? I mean, it's hard to.
Yes. No, they are, Chris. I'm going to give them credit. Yeah, they are the New England Patriots right now. Yes, they are. They have become that. And when you look around the AFC East, Chris, listen. But when you look around, not the East, when you look around the AFC, the conference in general, the only guy that can go toe to toe with him and beat him is Joe Burrow. Nobody else other than Brady has been able to go toe to toe with him, Chris, and beat him. So they're the Patriots. If Burrow gets healthy and they can keep some of their guys in free agency, I think Cincinnati can still go toe to toe with them. Burrow can beat them. But other than that, Chris, who's beating them?
Oh, I'm so disgusted right now.
Yeah, they have They have the new Patriots of the AFC, and they know it. Oh, Chris, wait a minute. Chris, they know it.
Well,
that's why as soon as the game ended, they're all talking about three-peat. Because
they'll have shirts and all that crap made about three-peats and all this. Listen, I'll tell you that they're the Patriots. They're the new Pats in this sense. Yep. They're not the same dynasty as the Patriots. You got to do it for 20 years.
Oh, no. I get that, Chris. I get that.
Within the confines of the time they've been doing it, yes. They've done the same.
Patriots. Yeah.
I mean, they've done the same thing, if not better.
They did it with Dallas, did it once, right?
You know? So are they the new Patriots? Yeah, they're the new Patriots. The question becomes now, you remember when the Patriots in 01 through like 06 or whatever, they were the darlings of the league. I mean, people actually loved them. Nobody remembers them.
People love the Chiefs right now.
Right now. Then the NFL decreed this team's winning too much. This is bad for football. It's bad for the parity. And now they started with the Deflategate, Spygate, nonsense, suspension. We got to knock this team down. I'm wondering what's going to happen.
That'll come.
Yeah, I'm wondering what's going to happen when the Chiefs start to feel that. Yeah. Are they still going to be able to rise above it? Will Mahomes be able to rise above it? And Mark, can they really become the Patriots? Because you and I talked about this with Andy Reid. Is Mahomes going to be as successful without Reed.
Listen, Mahomes is a great quarterback, Chris. He's as close to Brady as you're going to get. I don't think he's as good as Brady, but Reed schemes a lot of what Mahomes does. And yes, Mahomes runs out of the pocket. He improvises. He makes those throws that nobody else can make when guys run free. Yes, he does that. And he's the best in football at doing it, but a lot of what makes him successful, Chris, is Andy Reid's scheming to get guys open, to get Kelsey open and other guys open. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Kelsey, he's 34 years old. He'll be 35 in October of this coming season. What's he got? 1 year? I bet you Kelsey tries to three-peat, Chris, and retires. You're not playing tight end much longer than 35, 36 at most. So within the next couple of years, Chris, he could lose both Reed and Kelsey.
Yeah, Reed's the more important of the situation. And these guys say it. I mean, they give him their props because it's true. That Hardman touchdown at the end, all Andy Reid.
That was Reid.
That was all Reid. And anytime Kelsey did get open, that was Reid. I mean, they scheme it for him. And when Kelsey wasn't, when that was getting bottled up, then they went to Scantling. Reid did other things to get the other tight end open. He's just operating on a different level schematically. What I'm not seeing Mahomes walk up to the line of scrimmage, Mark, and direct it all. I don't see that. Do you see that? I don't see a Brady situation. I don't see the difference between these two. And I guess we shift over to Mahomes versus Brady a little bit too. What you look at the type of offense they're running, and you look at the amount of motion, you look at the scheme, you look at them, like you just said, rubbing Kelsey open, getting things done. That was not how the Patriots ran their offense. The Patriots offense was, we talked about this last week, a concept. Brady talked about this, where they call in a concept where it's, okay, this is kind of what we're thinking. This is kind of what their tendencies are. Go. And there's not a lot of movement, not a ton of motion. Brady maneuvers, just like Manning. Brady maneuvers the situation so he can see what he needs to see, and the play is coming from him. I don't see Mahomes doing that, Mark. And I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm trying to be a football, and I'm telling you what I see football-wise. I don't see Mahomes doing that. Do you?
No. Don't get me wrong. Yes, is he audibling? Is he changing plays at the line of scrimmage? Positively he is. He is. But is he doing it to the extent that Brady was doing things at the line of scrimmage? Absolutely not. For the most part, they're running what Andy Reid called schematically. What he might be doing, Chris, I believe, is he's calling out protection packages and changes as he sees where pressure might be coming from, which as the quarterback, he has to do that. But in regards to actually changing the scheme of what Reid is doing, he's not at the line. I don't think he's doing that. No, Chris.
And Brady said it, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. If you're in a situation as a quarterback where you got to roll out, where you got to run out, throw across your body, you read something wrong. You read wrong, because if you're into, like Brady said, if you're in cover two, if he said, what did he say? If it's
third and 4, and the team's in cover 2,
and I got crossing routes happening,
that's not working.
know that's not going to work.
So I got to change it at the line of scrimmage.
So why am I snapping the ball?
Yeah, don't snap it. And if you do snap it and you didn't identify that, and now you run out of the pocket and get a first down, and he said, the people upstairs, the announcers are saying, oh, what a great play. He says, not a great play. The ball shouldn't have been snapped.
Right. See, that's the kind of, and again, once again, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football right now. He is. And he's probably the best quarterback that's been now for, quite a few years. Nobody can touch him. I give you that.
No.
But is he doing that? Is he operating on that level?
I don't think he's there, no.
So, I mean, when you say Brady versus Mahomes, no, he's not there. He may have the rings coming, getting the wins, but
Chris,
he's not getting them alone.
And you know what I like, Chris? Everyone else this week was talking about, well, he's got 3 rings. He may eventually get to the 7. He may tie. You and I aren't even talking about rings. We're talking about his football IQ at the line of scrimmage. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about rings. This is the real deal, New England field. Let's be honest. We don't talk like the rest of these people are talking. We're talking about football IQ in what he's seeing and understanding. Is he at the level of Brady? No, he is not. And you know what? If you ask Mahomes, he'll tell you that too.
Yeah, agreed. So let us know what you think in Heated Hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. Let us know what you think about Brady versus Mahomes. Are the Chiefs the new Pats? And we'll keep following it. And but Weekly Rewind was presented by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CORSOLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, when we come back, buckle up. Catone's Comments is next.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Call or go online to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys who I know will help.
Time for Catone's Comments!
So this week, I believe it's maybe tomorrow or Friday. Well, this week, I think it was, I don't know when it is. It might be the end of the week, maybe Friday. But the Patriots are coming out with a new documentary on Apple TV Plus. Don't even get me into streaming services. That's a whole nother show on streaming services. However, so it's coming out, and this docuseries, I don't know what it's called. It might be called Dynasty. I forget what they even call it. But all of a sudden, Dynasty, right? Okay, fine. But listen, so now bits and pieces of stuff are leaking, and I got a problem. I got a real problem with what I'm hearing, and I just got to vent about it. I have to. Listen, nobody was more of a critic of Bill Belichick the last 2.5 years than me. And if you listen to our show and you've watched us on YouTube and listened to our podcast, you know that I've been a critic. And Chris has defended him, but I've been his biggest critic because I thought it was time for him to go, especially after letting Brady go. But listen, the man was the greatest coach. He is the greatest coach who has ever done it. Okay? His football IQ and understanding of the game and how to prepare a team and making sure everybody's where they should be and what. Nobody's better at that than him. Nobody. I don't care who you bring up. Nobody. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting bits and pieces of, well, Wes Welker says, I don't know how Tom Brady did it. He was like an abused animal coming to work every day. And he had to put up with what Belichick did to him. And now it comes out that Brady was never staying here because he couldn't take playing for Belichick anymore. So even if Kraft gave him Breeze's money, now it's coming out allegedly, well, even if he got the $50 million, he wasn't staying here to play for Belichick anymore. He had hit, that's it. He was done. He was done. Gronkowski, they're saying, would sit in the car and contemplate whether he even wanted to get out of his car to go practice anymore because he had enough of what was going on in that building and of what Belichick was doing and how he was what he was doing with the team and how he was treating players. Kraft, it's leaked. Kraft in this documentary is kind of putting some blame on Belichick as to why this thing fell apart. Okay, so what is this? Pile on Bill, so Kraft can continue his image and it's the Patriots and Kraft wants to play nicey with Brady, and I get that, right? But it was everybody was all hunky-dory at the press conference when Bill said it was a mutual parting of the ways, and he wants to bring him back someday for all these ceremonies. But yet you're gonna put out a docuseries that's gonna bash this guy who was the greatest to ever do it. And listen, what he taught Brady in those first 4 or 5 years is why Brady became Brady. Make no question. No question about that. And Chris and I have said that from the beginning. The last 8-9 years, yeah, Brady was the coach on the field. Absolutely. Brady didn't need Bill anymore. He proved he went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. Didn't need Bill anymore. Did Bill still need him? Well, based on the way things ended, probably. However, now you're going to bash this man who outcoached everybody for Okay, maybe not the entire 20 years, last for 16 or 17 of them. And now everyone's going to say how miserable it was coming to work every day, and everyone now wants to throw in their bits and pieces and their stories. This is going to be a disgusting docuseries if that's what it's about. And I'm disgusted. And you know what? Tarnish your legacy. Everyone's saying, oh, the Chiefs are the new Patriots. Now you're going to only make yourself look bad. Why are you coming out with something like this? Why? I don't get it. You've had stuff out already about us. We've done it. There's been things out on the Patriots already. Why are you doing this? I don't get the point of it. But everything that's been leaked, it's going to make us look bad, Chris. It's going to be a bad look. And me personally, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Listen, we were the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. Period. Leave it. The man left. Let him walk off into the sunset. He gave you everything he could give you. Things just ended. That's it. It ended. But now you're going to do this, and everyone's going to stop bashing Belichick? I'm disgusted, Chris. And I'm his biggest critic. But I don't go for that's bullshit. What they excuse my language. That's BS. What they're going to start to release about him now.
Yeah, I agree.
I
agree.
I had to, Chris.
You know what, Mark? I don't blame you at all because it's this revisionist history crap really pisses me off. I mean, that's what really pisses me off. Look, here's what I can say. All right, you mentioned Kraft goes and blames Belichick a little. I held it together as long as I possibly could. Blah blah blah. Then fire him. Then fire him and choose Brady. I mean, that's my answer to you, Bob, or Mr. Kraft. I want to give him respect because he deserves it. But then fire Bill Belichick in 2017 or 18 and keep Brady and go and hire, promote McDaniels and keep going. If that's what you believe, that this guy was toxic to all the players there, then get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean, no, am I like, okay, and
then, Chris, they're saying Brady was never going to stay because he wasn't going to play for him anymore.
I don't buy that.
Give him the money.
I don't buy that at all.
No,
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't know who's saying that, but I don't believe that. Wes Welker wasn't even part of the team. He wasn't even around. Maybe he talked to him all the time, and they're good friends, and I know they are. But I don't believe that his foot was up. His foot. He left the day. He left when Garoppolo got traded, and in 17, when they didn't give him a new contract, Mark, at that point, when they decided year to year, that's when he decided he was gone. So I agree with the fact that he wasn't going to come back, but if they gave him the contract, they gave him a 5-year deal in 2018, he would have been there. Period. He would have.
When Garoppolo left, you think that in 17, if they gave him the 5-year deal in 17, no matter what his relationship with Bill was, he would have stayed.
I mean, he ate all the crap for that long.
Yeah.
Well, he's not going to do it the last 5 years of his career, or 3. He's going to do it for 3 more years after 2020. I mean, after 19. No, of course he was going to stay. I don't buy that at all, Mark. You don't notice the one thing you pointed out was these guys that are saying this, Gronk. I mean, Gronk wants a party. I mean, Gronk wants, Gronk's looking for that player's coach, and he loved it in Tampa with Arians, that cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the guys that are saying this are the second half of the dynasty guys.
Yes.
You don't hear this coming from 2000 to 2010. You don't hear it from anybody.
No.
Other than Welker. Randy Moss wouldn't say this.
And Chris, Welk is disgruntled because he got pissed off because of the way it ended with him. They didn't want to give him the money. You know what I mean? He ends up going to Denver. So he's got an axe to grind, too, with Belichick.
You don't hear this coming out of Bruschi, Vrabel, really, Seymour, Law, even Lawyer Malloy, who got canned from us, doesn't say it. Rodney Harrison, certainly not. Ted Johnson has an axe to grind with him anyway. So I don't put any stock into what Ted Johnson says.
Brady continues to say, I'm shocked that he didn't get a job. He's the greatest coach to ever do it. Brady has never said that my relationship with him was so bad I couldn't stay.
And I believe him when he says that.
That's never come out of Brady's mouth, Chris. Somebody's saying it. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah. And nobody believes Brady when he says that. Because everything else he says, they believe it, but not that. Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative, Mark.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit the narrative to blame Bill for everything. He created the whole thing. He created the Patriot way. He made them understand how to win. He made them understand how to be pros. That's what he did. Where he lost touch was with the new player, was with the guys that can't be called out. And that's what Mike Lombardi talks about, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does.
He talks about you can't call these guys out anymore. You can't tell them.
And he lost touch with the GM duties.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole different
but
thing.
You're
but as
right,
far
Chris.
as coaching goes,
Lombardi's right. You can't call these guys out anymore. He's right.
You can't. You can't. You got to be. You got to be in their corner, Mark. You're right. You're right. I mean,
but Chris, are you gonna watch this Apple series?
Well, I'm gonna watch it because I want to see. Because of this, we do the show. I want to talk about it, and we're gonna watch it. But if it's gonna be Bash Bill, I'm gonna get pissed off because I defend him. I do. You know that. You know what I think about coaching, and you don't get there with just Brady. You don't do it all with just him.
Yeah,
there's got to be a foundation built. So, Mark, I agree. This is probably honestly, this is Joe. I think this is one of his best Catone's comments.
Wow.
Okay.
Joe, because I was defending his boy Belichick. That's why.
That's because you served them Bloody Marys over the weekend. That's why.
Right. Actually, the best one you ever had. Let's see if you come up with another flying, because I just flew across the country, and you need to do another one about flying, Mark, because it's brutal. So good job, Mark. Catone's comments was presented by Corso and Catone, noon to 1 p.m. Eastern, Saturdays. Sponsorships are available. Give us a call. Give us an email, 855-313-PATS or corso.catone@gmail.com. Mark will promote the business. Sell anything. He'll sell anything for you. So when we come back, we're going to talk Bruins, Celtics, B's and C's. Coming up.
Mark, I'm serious. I think I lost my mind.
Certainly, it was an exciting show.
I want Murray.
That's
it.
What is wrong with you?
Get him on this damn show.
You lost your mind tonight.
That's all I have to say.
Lost your mind.
What are you writing now?
So I'm working over here. You're talking about nonsense. I'm working.
That's why we are the real deal New England Feel. It's going to be real.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England Feel. Hey, got to talk Bruins, got to talk Celtics. Joe, let's have it.
Hit it! As offered upon the Celtics are the world champions, and they have shown the world how great a ball club they really are. Screen shot,
Love that wash, Joe.
Oh, I love it. I love that wash.
Love that wash. I really do. So, Mark, going into the break now, going into the All-Star break for the NBA and the Celtics, they come in 43-12, and they're probably 4 to 6 games clear.
Yeah, they are clear
with the best record. At least in the East, they're about 6 games, and there's about 4 overall. So it's a great record. I mean, it's very difficult to criticize them, but we're going to. But we're going to. Especially having been back there now for the last week. Oh my God. Talk about negativity. It oozes out of that region, man. Oozes. So Mark, looking at this team, going into the break, as I said, the record, we talked about a little bit. Can they win a championship with the way they play? Now, I will say the last 2 games going into the break, again, it's Brooklyn. I got it. They beat Brooklyn. But you looked at Jason Tatum in that second to the last, the road game against Brooklyn, where he scored 41 points. And you say, well, okay, he scored 41 points, but he did it all different ways.
He did.
That
was one of his better games, Christian.
It really was.
Quite a while. Yeah.
Fadeaways, step backs, a good passing game, good spacing. That's how they need to play. But are they going to do that? I mean, is this team, can they come out in the second half and blow doors and then get into the playoffs and win a championship? Especially with Missoula. I threw a lot at you there, Mark. But he can handle it, Joe.
Listen, here's my concern with what you just said. I know you talked about the Brooklyn game, but I'm going to take us back to Super Bowl Sunday when they played the Miami Heat. There was no Jimmy Butler in that game. And Chris, it was life and death with a minute to go in that game. Miami didn't have the best player on the court, but Miami punches them and punches them and punches them. and forces them to get into a dirty, grinded out type of a game. And they don't have any fear. They don't back down. They bang, they kick, they do whatever they're going to do. And the Celtics struggle against them, Chris, because if the 3-point shot isn't working against Miami, they have a problem because they don't adjust. And if they do, it's too late. And it showed again, Chris. If Jimmy Butler played Sunday, I bet you they would have lost that game in Miami.
Yeah. Well, I watched it with you, and you and I were both saying, I'm sitting there and we're saying it, and it's obvious to us and looking at it.
I don't want no part of Miami in the playoffs. I want somebody else to beat them, Chris. I really do. And listen, we are 1,000 times more talented team than Miami. I just don't want to see them in the playoffs.
Well, see, in saying that, in itself, there's the problem. We shouldn't care. We should blow the doors off Miami.
We should.
But the problem is Joe Mazzulla is stubborn in the way he wants to play. I mean, when if they decided to post up, if they decided to play in the paint, the Celtics, there's nobody that can beat them when they're doing that.
No.
I mean, there's very few people that are that can match with Porzingis in the East. Okay. And with Tatum, I mean, this dude's 6'8". He's a matchup nightmare in the post. And you saw a little of that when they were at Brooklyn. And him doing that, and there's just nobody that nobody can come down on him. If you bring a big to guard him, he'll go right by, or a jab, step back and hit it. I mean, but when they start getting into those, hovered around the 3-point line, and they're just chucking up threes, and when they don't go, what happens? They lose.
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's life and death, So it's like they're either blowing a team out or, their life and death right down to the straw. You know what I mean? Like it's just they can't manufacture offense when the shots aren't dropping, Mark.
The one thing, Chris, he did show up.
Or they can, but they don't.
The guy that did show a little bit though the last couple of games, Chris, too, was Drew Holiday. And you made a point to say to me on Sunday watching that Miami game, Holiday made a couple of plays down the stretch, and you said, come playoff time, he's going to do that on a consistent basis. He's just going to take control as the point guard come playoff time. And I think you're right, Chris. He's going to have to do that because, listen, with everything I just said, to answer the second part of your question, should they roll through the East? Yes, and I think if Porzingis is healthy and they keep managing his game minutes by letting him rest every few games, they hold him out. They say, okay, resting his calf, resting his back. That's just they're giving him a night off. If they can do that, Chris, and he's ready to roll in the playoffs, then nobody in the East should beat them. Nobody in the East should beat them. No. They should be playing for the NBA championship.
But you're right about Holiday, and you're right about Porzingis. And in that Miami game, those two new guys showed up, and that's why they won that game, because of those two guys. If this was the lineup from last year, they lose that game.
Yeah.
Holiday's got to have the ball in his hands, Mark.
So do you think, Chris, they roll through the East? What's your prediction?
Yeah, I do, but I'm worried about at the end. I'm worried about the playoffs. I'm worried about Joe Mazzulla just being too stubborn for his own good, and that's what I'm worried about. And then switching over to the Bruins, Mark, they come out of the break. They're 32-11-10. The overtime losses bother me. But they really bother me. But they come out of the break. They're still leading. They're still the best team in hockey, or at least in the East. But I watch them play, and I look at this team, and I say, defensively, okay, I watch them in their own end, and I watch them get back on transition defense. As the center position is bothering me, okay, and defensively. I see Lindholm up and down, up and down, up and down. But you can be sure as hell that any time there's a turnover or something stupid happens in the defensive end where they can't tough a guy out, he's usually on the ice, Mark.
Yeah, he is. So let me ask you this. Do you make a move at the trade deadline?
I think you have to. I mean, again, we hold on to these, we're holding on to these goaltenders. Why? Because they hug at the end and it feels good. And listen, you want to win a cup, then you don't need two goalies. You don't need two hot goalies to do it. the platoon thing, and they're going to do it in the playoffs. They do it during the season and all that. You're gonna have to. It's gonna be Ulmark too. It's got to be him. They got to get some. They got to get some help on defense. They got to get a good shot on defense. They have to get a body that can get guys out of the way of the goalie. Okay, and if they want to go get a center, somebody that can transition back on defense much better. Scoring goals is. I mean, they can score goals. This team, and their wingers seem to be okay. And I like Coyle and I like Zaka. The kid Patra is out now for the year.
Yeah.
So you need help at center and you need help at defense, Mark.
And Chris, you can't give up more draft picks to bring in guys. You're going to have to trade the goalie. You've given up first and second round draft picks for years to come to load up last year.
Yeah.
And then you let all those guys go. You didn't sign any of them. So
Bertuzzi and Olaf.
So this year, Chris, you have to deal a goaltender. You can't deal another draft pick. And let me ask you this. I know we're going to switch topics. Would you think about trading DeBrusk?
Yes.
If you could get something good in return?
Oh, absolutely. I just don't know what you get, but I would absolutely trade DeBrusk.
Okay.
DeBrusk is one of the most inconsistent players on this team. He's one of the most inconsistent players in the freaking conference, Mark. This guy is up and down, up and down. He's a big baby. And you know what? If you can get something for him, get it.
Trade him. Okay.
Get a pick. You're right with the picks, though, Mark. So we'll keep focused. We'll keep track. Let us know in Heated Hotline 855-313-7287 about the B's and C's and how the Celtics are going to eat. The All-Star game now, Jaylen Brown's going to be in the dunk contest. So stick around. Pay attention to that this weekend, and we'll talk B's and C's more in the weeks to come. But B's and C's was presented by CORSO Law Group, CORSOLawGroup.com. Hey, when we come back, we're going to welcome in the Pats Nation. Talk a little wide receiver. All that and more, no flipping.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, talk with these expert attorneys. CORSOLawGroup.com.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. All right, Mark, we need to talk free agents. Let's start with wide receiver, and let's welcome in the Pats Nation. Joe? Okay, Mark, this is your wheelhouse. We're a couple minutes over, so let's get right to it, okay? What I've done is I've broken the free agent tiers, and we'll talk about the draft another time. But let's focus on getting some free agent talent on this team. I've broken them down into 3 tiers. Okay. Tier 1, Evans, Higgins, Pittman. 2, Ridley, Davis, Brown. 3, Clark, Samuel, and Boyd. Okay. These are the ones that I've looked at. And so looking at this tier 1, obviously Mike Evans has been one of the most consistent wide receivers.
Yes.
On a top-end consistent level, receiver, loads of talent, kind of an attitude issue, though.
He's just a hair, Chris. He's not a hair. He's just below, though, Tyreek Hill, Chase, Jefferson. Right. I don't know if he's those guys, but he's right up there, right behind them.
So talk to me about this tier.
And the age, Chris, the age.
Well, that's the other thing. He's what, 10 years?
Gets me a little nervous. Yeah, his age gets me a little nervous.
So, he as I said, I mean, he's played under 15 games. He hasn't played under 15 games in a season in 10 seasons. That's durability.
That's durability.
At least 67 catches for 1,000 yards in every season. Okay, that he's had, and at least double-digit touchdowns. So then you got a guy like Higgins. Okay, T. Higgins, 42 catches, 650 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 12 games. That's not huge numbers, but for what was going on in Cincinnati,
he was hurt too.
He was hurt, and you got Chase sitting over there too. And then you got Michael Pittman again, 109 catches, 1,100 yards. He's more of an inside guy, though. Okay.
Yes.
Out of this tier, who should we be targeting here, and why?
Well, Chris, Evans is going to cost a lot of money. So listen. I don't know if they're going to spend the money on Evans. I just don't think he fits. I just don't know at his age. I don't know, Chris. Higgins is going to want number one money, and I have a funny feeling, Chris, Cincinnati could franchise him for a year, but he's going to want number one money. Is he a number one receiver? I think he's a 2. I don't know if he's a 1. Maybe he shows he's a 1 somewhere, but I think he's a 2, Chris. I don't think he's a 1. So I don't know if I'd give him 1 money. Pittman is interesting because Pittman, Chris, based on what I think Van Pelt is going to run, that West Coast style of offense. Now, we're going to think about fit. I think Pittman could be a stud in that West Coast style offense if you dropped him in there and could do some stuff that guys in that offense do, okay? I like Pittman's fit if Van Pelt's going to bring a lot of those principles in, which I think he is. Because I just think Evans and Higgins, Chris, are going to be way too much money.
With the biggest problem with us last year was lack of separation. Couldn't get separation. None of the receivers could. This guy can.
Pittman
can.
Yeah, Pittman can.
And Higgins, there's a red flag for me. I don't like guys that were number 2s now getting number 1 money because I don't know if they can establish themselves as number 1s. And we've seen
and
that.
That's what he's going to go try and get.
And we've seen that too many times. So in the second tier, we got Ridley, Davis, Gabe Davis in Buffalo, Calvin Ridley in Jacksonville, and you got Marquise Brown, kind of a sleeper guy. Not a lot of notice on him in Arizona, but you got Calvin Ridley. Now we talked about him. He had in 17 games, he had 76 catches, 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. Durable. He was productive. He had his issues, but he seemed to have come back from that. Gabe Davis is another guy we talk about. We see him twice a year. Okay. He had only 45 catches.
Chris, they missed him in that playoff game against Kansas City.
Yeah, they really did. He was hurt. So Davis averaged 16.5 yards a catch, and he can get up and run after the catch.
I'm going to tell you something, Chris.
Yeah.
Davis is a guy. If you say you drafted a Marvin Harrison, I would like to take. I would go get a guy like Davis and put him with a Marvin Harrison. Maybe take another receiver a little later in the draft, or maybe sign Ridley. Like, I think those would be guys, Chris. If you take, say, Marvin Harrison, you're not paying them number 1 money, but they're going to really fit what you're trying to do offensively next year. I wouldn't be surprised, Chris, if Jacksonville makes a strong offer for Ridley, because I think Ridley, it was his first year back from sitting out a year. I think Ridley's primed to have a huge next year.
And then looking at Marquise Brown, this is an interesting guy.
But Gabe Davis, I think, is a sleeper.
Well, we talk about Brown just for a second. We'll look maybe one of these guys in the third tier, but this is a guy that had loads of talent. He came out of that 2019 big wide receiver class, and he's got tons of talent, tons of speed. He's explosive, but he hasn't lived up to it. Now, has he been put in the best situation in Arizona? No. Kyler Murray's not a quarterback. He's an athlete. I mean, So is this the right situation for him, though, to shine? Is it really? Or would you like you get Gabe Davis?
I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a fan of. I know he's. I don't think you know what Brown will give you yet. I'd rather take it. I think Marquise Brown might cost you more than Gabe Davis, though, Chris.
Okay. So with the time,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, with the time we have left in that third tier, I mean, Chark, Samuel, Boyd. To me, you look at Boyd for a minute. He was the number 3 guy over there. Is it fair to say, look, let's stay out of this tier and let's just keep Douglas? You get Douglas. You
got Douglas. Chris, if you're going to go into this tier, just re-sign Bourne. You know what you got.
Yeah.
If you're going to dip into this tier, just re-sign Bourne.
So then for you, it's Pittman,
Ridley,
Davis, and Davis. There you go.
Higgins, Chris, and Evans. I just don't know. Evans at his age, he's going to want one more big payday. Is he really worth it at that age? Great player, but I don't know if at that age.
He's got attitude issues too.
He's got attitude issues. And Chris, like you said, Higgins, is a 2 trying to become a 1 and wanting 1 money. You're right. Those guys, you got to shy away from those guys, Chris. You're right.
So let us know what you think in heated hotline of the free agent wide
Chris,
receivers.
those 3 guys I mentioned, if you get 2 of them, I'll be happy.
There you go. So let us know what you think next week. You want to talk offensive line, maybe some tight ends? Yeah, we'll do that next week. So Corso and Catone was presented by Corso Law Group. Get on, watch, listen to all our shows. They're up for you. Make sure you subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. Come back next week, noon to 1 Eastern. More Celtics, more Bruins, Catone's comments, free agency, anything you bring to the table. We will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso and Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.